Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen show where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 154, Shifty Contracts, recorded on Friday, July 9th, 2021 from Sonata Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt. And this week we are joined by Vanu here from Nimbus Designs, another Zoho partner who's volunteered to jump in and help us walk through some of the news. Thanks for joining us, Vanu.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm excited to get into some shifty contracts today.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. So with that, let's get to it. So let's talk about events. We are doing a webinar, Zoho subscriptions, our full product tutorial. That will be Tuesday, July 20th, 2021 at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And as always, if you want to know anything that's going on in the world in Zoho, we try to collect them all over at zonata.com/events. And on our events tab, you will see pretty much everything that we can find. So you've got some user groups going on. Zoho is going to have something on remote people management coming up. Anything we can get, whether it's a partner that's putting out, whether it's Zoho that's putting out, if it's an event, has to do with Zoho, we capture it and we put it over here. So head on over to zonata.com events and see, hopefully there's something that will fit what you're looking to do. All right, and with that, let's dive into the news, and we start with not one, but two new products that Zoho has come out with. The first one is I'm not sure if it's official, guys, but it's out there. It's out in the public. Anybody can register. You can just jump in, and this is called Zoho Shifts. It's not part of Workerly. It's kind of just an overall scheduling tool. It looks very cool since it really just kind of appeared out of nowhere. I haven't had much time to play with it. I don't know if you guys looked at this at all.
This is one that I haven't seen at all. This is really cool.
Yeah, so you basically, if you're looking at if you're watching us on YouTube right now, it's kind of like I got a view for the week, and it looks like you could put all the employees in and, the hours they're working. Then at the bottom, it's going to tell you how many hours you've got for the day and what the overall labor cost is going to be. So it's kind of a nice little planning tool, it looks like.
It almost looks like similar to bookings. I would bet this is built in Creator. It's got that kind of look and feel to it. Kind of adding another tool to their repertoire as they deploy apps through that method.
Yeah, it's, I just don't know. I mean, this kind of seems like a Workerly thing, or maybe something that would be in People.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely like tied in with People, but it has that bookings feel where, they definitely based it off of a Creator app that they were using probably internally that they converted into something that we get to enjoy.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of interesting. I've got one of our clients on here. I think Tina's in here. This might be an interesting thing for us to try out for you, kind of your overall shift management here. But anyway, so that's Zoho Shifts. Not much we can say about it, except you can just go to shifts.zoho.com and see what the heck is going on there. And then this one actually was officially announced, and this looks way cool. This is Zoho Contracts. Now, have you guys looked at this one yet? Since it's
I was poking around with this a little bit here.
This is really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty much a tool that you would use to work through the entire contract lifecycle, right? It says everything from the creation, the approval, the execution of the contract, obligation management, amendments down the line that you might need to make, and then any renewals and extensions. This is the type of thing that you could probably customize the CRM to get it to do. And it looks like what they've done here, and we've done, right? But it looks like what they've kind of done is noticed, what I would guess here is they've noticed that a lot of people are using the CRM and Sign and Mail Merge integration to do their contract management. So it looks like they kind of created a little vertical tool here that would just have a lot of that functionality built in.
So the thing I'm wondering about, Vanu, we actually recently, we were using FormStack to actually generate all of our contracts. And the cool thing about FormStack is that you could pull variables. So in the CRM in a deal, we would list, the 50 Zoho apps. And as I'm talking to someone, I would say, okay, we're going to work on this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And then I click a button and FormStack would create the document with just those sections in it. And then, of course, then add it to work drive and, add it to the CRM and do those various things. But it was never really perfect. And then out of the blue, we noticed, I don't know, a month or so ago, that you actually can now do, dynamic builds in a writer template from CRM using if-then statements. So we basically took the entire thing over to writer and we redid it in writer, which actually, now that it was completely native, has just
so much
been
better.
Great. Oh, it automatically attaches to the deal and you can edit directly from the link, and we love all that. But in reading this, it appears you're doing the same thing, right? You're choosing the sections you want in. I mean, am I reading that right, guys? Like you're actually able to customize the contract based upon sections.
Templates,
did you see that,
and things like
wrong?
that. I'm interested to dive in and see if it's, I would assume it's doing the same thing where it's going to route the document through writer, right? And then bring it back.
Yeah, and then probably again powered with Sign as well. I'm also a FormStack partner, and I'm a huge fan of the FormStack documents and that flow and contracts, because I think you can do so much. And yeah, the new writer if else's are awesome. But I think the life cycle in the Zoho contracts is really exciting to give that one-stop shop. My worry, with every new product deployment is this is what it's advertised as what it's going to be able to do. And, like you said, Brett, it's probably, you can select the sections dynamically, right? How well that's actually going to work out of the gate, probably questionable, but going through the specific lifecycle steps seems reliable. And I know we've done some testing internally, and it looks like it's on the right track.
Yeah, I think the big make or break here that we'll need to play with is what the CRM integration looks like. Because at the end of the day, like even if you're going to manage that contract, the creation, the approvals and everything here, you still need that to live in some way, shape or form in the CRM at the end of the day. Right. So if a sales rep maybe hands this off to the contracting team and they're working on it, well, they're still going to want to see what's going on probably within CRM. So that'll, I think, be the interesting thing to take a look at is, what does that sync look like? How are they going to tie together? Right. What can you automate back and forth?
I installed, it's a marketplace application to link these two. So I installed it. The interesting part is I didn't finish the configuration because it's kind of interesting. You can who's the counterparty? And you're basically saying, what are they, right? What's the requesting department? And you're kind of setting all these up on the back end. Then on the field mapping, what are they? Is it the account name you're using for the primary contact? They're letting you kind of pull these basic kind of things in. And then, of course, you can then build out these contracts that you're going to want to use when the CRM user requests the contract. So it looks like this is one of those things, guys, we're just going to it's going to take hours to go through this.
There's going to be a lot around this. Does that only let you link up to one type of party, one module with the extension?
It looks like it's in a couple, but yeah, it looks like when you're actually building the contract, it's got to tie into, it's going to pull from, it looks like accounts and contacts to do that.
Yeah, so I guess if you had a field in the account where you were storing the primary signer, right, you would default that would always be what would pull in. And it'd be interesting to see. I mean, it's always, we bump into that sometimes with apps like that are kind of purpose made. Is it always becomes a trade-off of, what do we lose by not doing this natively in the CRM versus what quality of life do we gain by using this other application? And that'll, I think, be the make or break, because there's going to be nothing you can do in there, I would assume, that you couldn't back your way into with a custom module, some deluge logic and things like that. So it's be, what's the special sauce here that you gain by taking this out of the CRM?
Yeah, and I think that especially with, if you're doing this off of the deals module, you have say 3 verticals and you have to manage, different cycles, right? Where, what is the line that Zoho contracts is going to draw for, how many different types of these life cycles are you going to be able to support is going to be a big question, I think.
It's crazy. So this is the
thing I do like, though.
You're dropping in your clauses here. I
like that. So if you have like a clause management, right? You could say, hey, only the appropriate people should be creating those, so that any that a sales rep chooses is already vetted by the contracts team. I think some of the management pieces here, more than even the workflow, I think might be some of the value add.
Yeah, I think that there's some room also for I mean, when you have clients that are, okay, I'm sending out pretty much, if it's in one of these three branches, it's always going to be this contract or this contract or this contract. But when you need to be able to do that, okay, now I have this, it's a event type engagement, but there's always all these moving parts. Being able to build a contract on the fly easily, and knowing what blocks are going to be used, like you need to be able to see that and interact with it. That's a really, really cool feature, and that's something that I definitely can think of a couple of clients where this seems like a better solution than what is available with Zoho, or even unless you're building a custom creator app where you're able to easily like say this is a templated section and drop it in or something, right?
Yeah, or doing the whole thing in Deluge to get to the same endpoint. You select all these fields and you press the magic button.
Check, check, check.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have one of our devs, Tyler, just go ahead and take our existing contract and just port it,
see what it would look like.
See what it looks like. Yeah, and play with it a bit. I think it would be a good internal practice for this. But
yeah,
I mean, this reminds me
out for a while, but it hasn't been like really as usable. Like it was very limited in what we could do with it. So like this is going to be very interesting now to explore it.
I think it's going to change a lot. Reminds me, I wonder if they're kind of going up against PandaDocs here a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
with the grab
certainly
sections.
more than FormStack in this case. Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty nice. All right, Zoho, 2 new products. Let's move on. All right, the Zoho Books update for July 2021. I'll comment on one thing here, guys. This set tax preferences for your customers. This is really nice, and I've been using it, and I really like it. But I will put a little warning out there to the world. It breaks Square and Stripe until you go into Square and Stripe and reset your tax preferences there. So once you set tax and books, you have completely broken your integrations with Square and Stripe until you go and set them there. So it can be a little bit of a problem. You'll just notice that nothing appears in your Square and Stripe accounts for a while. And then the money will still go into your bank account. It just won't show up in the holding account. So, but anyway, anything else jump at you guys here?
Yeah, really the only thing for me is that they dropped in the Zoho Click chat bar. You can now install within Books. It just reminds me of, when we were talking to Raju, about context, right? That they want Click to be and they want to allow you to communicate with context wherever you are. Right. And just being able to quickly grab those things and pull them in, and into a click. So you're on the invoice and you can just chat about it, I think is a nice quality of life. Find myself using that in the CRM more than you'd expect, right? As you pull up a deal, you see something happen, you send a quick chat over to someone.
Yeah. All roads lead to Click lately, which I like.
I think that like one of the cool things about how this bar is designed is it just feels very lightweight. It's just always there no matter what Zoho app you're in. And it actually feels like you really don't notice it. Like most people don't even know, until I tell a client that it exists, they don't even pay attention to it, which is how lightweight it is. Yeah. But it still has if okay, it's there, I can use it wherever I am, but it's not distracting, and it's cool to be able to see this expanding out to the rest of the Zoho apps. I do want to see more of being able to transactionally, talk about a record in CRM and being able to do that with the related invoice and seeing those connected together. But it's such a complicated problem. It's definitely exciting seeing this propagate out.
Yeah, and I think they try to solve a lot of that in Click, Vanu, don't you? I mean, with the slash commands, right? So slash ZCRM, you can then talk about something. Be interesting if they did it in Books, but you might have some issues there with, permissions would be my thing. I imagine that's going to be the bigger issue. But I agree with you, though, that I love it because I live in CRM. The rest of the team is living elsewhere. And so I still see you never miss a Click message because it just shows up down there and it is out of the way. So. All right, and moving on, TeamInbox now has got some reporting, which, depending on what app you're in, it's either reporting or analytics. It's analytics in TeamInbox. Thoughts, guys?
This is one I've not really played with much. I always find myself, if you're needing to have kind of a shared inbox for tracking emails that multiple people need to keep track on or need to communicate about, I found we just end up using Desk. It's with Zoho Desk, if you just need a really simple install, there's not a lot to do to set that up. You set up your email forwarding, you set up a couple basic rules, and then you have a better version of TeamInbox kind of sitting there for you. It is always nice to have reporting. It's never going to hurt you to be able to track these types of things within an application, especially when it comes to emails, because it's a little different to try to report on those, especially if you're pulling them in from an IMAP or something where you're not really housing that data. So it's not going to hurt to have, but at the end of the day, if you need really, really finite tracking of shared inbox and team emailing activity, you're probably going to want to use something like Desk.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that TeamInbox is, and like a lot of these more new Zoho apps, it's definitely interesting. I can see where there's a value. It needs to be flushed out more, I think, to really see that value or like actualize that value. I'm glad they're continuing to add features, continue to improve it. We're going to keep evaluating it, but it's hard to, with some of, what you can do with Desk and even just in CRMs, you can now do the inbound, outbound email workflows. Like you can still do a decent bit more, I think, with the automation engines around. And I mean, that's where Zoho really shines, right? So I'm excited to explore TeamInbox, but definitely need to see some more features.
More meat on the bones.
Yeah. I mean, we're a Gmail G Suite team. So like, if anything can get me to leave Gmail, like that'll be very, very exciting.
Well, I think the only thing, and we talk about this all the time on the show, we are a G Suite house as well. And we are pretty much could be 100% migrated except for calendar. That's really the big thing for us. And it's only because in the Zoho universe, there are a few applications that just don't work for us, right? Bookings and meetings, then they're not working, right? I mean, I think we discussed the other day, we could live with meetings. I almost want to move meetings from our no list up to our maybe list because it's improved so much. As long as I don't have to record a meeting, and most of our meetings, we don't really have to record them. And you wouldn't even care if the quality was just okay, not 1080p like this, because it's not being recorded and edited up on YouTube. But there's no integrations yet, with any of the other meeting softwares. That's kind of been a thing that holds us back from making that big jump. But man, I love everything else in the Office suite. I mean, it's just it's great. All right, and this is kind of a minor little one, but push notifications for Zoho Forms have made it to mobile.
Sweet, why not?
Yeah, it's good to have. I mean, I virtually turn off every notification I possibly can, but this would probably be one I'd want to leave on, right?
Yeah, I could see it in a couple of use cases if you're using it to like book meetings or things like that. Oftentimes what I found, if this is like a form that's going to the CRM, let's have the notification come from there. A lot of the times a form is really the pass through. But if you are using this for like more kind of isolated use cases, never hurts to be notified.
Yeah, anything to just not have to have another email sometimes.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And moving on with the news. So a minor one here, currency limit increases in CRM. I guess in the past, unless you had enterprise, you didn't have multiple currency. And so now you do.
Which has always been interesting to me because they treat it like a decimal field in every other sense, except for the limit of how many you can have. It's got its own limit when you add it to the module. Despite that, really, it's essentially the same thing, but they just apply a currency value in front of it. Yeah. Nice to have more of these. I mean, oftentimes you're not going to run into the need for more than 10, but if you're working on specific industries where there's a lot more currency values you need to track on a deal, what's our profit? What's it going to cost us? We're going to pay out these 3 amounts to these 3 different groups on this. More flexibility never hurts.
Yeah, I think the other advantage of the currency field is like you can add 2 numbers within it, which is kind of cool. So I guess it's a limit based on like the formula field-ish, but it's kind of silly. So we'll take them.
And Zoho Recruit, which I'm actually growing to love more and more. They changed their web forms, gave them a nice modern look and feel.
Nice.
They were so old before.
Yep.
Yes. It's in beta right now. It hasn't totally rolled out, but the web forms are there.
Very nice.
I think we usually don't we just use Zoho Forms for this though anyway?
Oftentimes I do. These are nice because they go onto your career page. And I believe these are what you fill out if you're going through a job posting. Correct me if I'm wrong, Vanu, but I think these are what pop up for like your candidate application. So having them look nice is just, any form anywhere should look modern and clean, and it's a good step. It's kind of like what they did with the CRM web forms.
Yeah, it's nicer to use these forms. Unfortunately, I wish that we could get away with Zoho forms, but in the integrated career pages, you're kind of stuck with it. And especially if you want that like automated resume parsing, you kind of have to go through the career pages. So there's like not really a way around it. So,
all right, and then this is cool, but you can now import and export contacts in the Bigin iOS app. So, or is it just iOS? Must just be iOS, right?
Like just iOS.
Yeah, so you can go to the folder up to.
And you're importing from your local contacts. Okay, got it. So this would be like importing from your phone's contacts. I read this first as like importing a spreadsheet. I'm like, who's going to do that on their phone?
Yeah.
That makes sense. So you're pulling in from like your local contacts on your device.
Yeah.
See that if you're a solopreneur or something like that.
I was setting up a new phone from scratch the other day, and I looked at, and Bigin now has this Bigin Express plan. So it's an iOS plan with in-app purchase. So Zoho's paying that 30% to Apple, and you actually can subscribe directly from your phone, and just, a total mobile experience is what they're going for there. So I think it's really
cool. So surprised by that, but that's such an interesting direction for Bigin to take.
I think it makes sense. It seems like they kind of always saw it as a lighter weight, mobile focused version of the CRM. I guess it makes sense as much as it ever would to have two CRM products.
Yeah, like they would never do it with CRM, but like Bigin gives them this opportunity to go this approach, which is really interesting.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. We've, there was so much Bigin news for like 6-8 months, and it was just go. And I really thought that the ultimate use case for us was going to be that you would have a company and they would have a sales team that were out in the field, and we'd have CRM, and we'd spin up Bigin and do that integration. And then those guys would just be out there with that lightweight thing. But man, I don't know. I don't think we've done a single implementation that way, where we've got anybody really.
I mean, the thing is, if you look at it, other than the fact that Bigin has the widgets for iOS, the mobile experience between Bigin and CRM are pretty similar. It's not too different when you look at those on the phone, other than just the usage of the widgets.
All right. And moving on with the news of Palooza, man. More news this week. Some weeks we have like 4 stories. I think we're up to 18 this week. It's just crazy. Vanilla, I have a pet peeve if you listen to the show. It has to do with Zoho Notebook, which I love, and the fact that I can't create a note and attach it to anything in the CRM. So every time they come out with something new, I'm like, but I still can't attach a note to the CRM. I'm whipping a dead horse.
I 100% agree.
Clearly, nobody in the Notebook team listens to the show or cares about my opinion. But anyway, they're announcing this Workspace integration. I've had it for a long time, so I'm confused. But maybe I don't know. It's nice though.
They've done something.
Honestly, if you're in, it's super nice. I mean, you can be basically in any of these Google apps, and you just, over on the side, you click the Notebook and it pops up, and you can take your notes and do whatever you want. So if you're one of those people that lives inside Google, which a lot of people do, it's a quick way to take notes and then not attach them to your CRM.
That's the part that makes no sense to me. I love this deployment. Like, this is really cool, but like, this seems like, this can now connect to everything, G Suite, to Zoho.
Magic, and it does. It connects to plenty of things.
But wait, the Zoho, that's your name. Where are you?
I don't even understand. I don't get it. But it's also, it's so cool. Dude, in Zoom, you can bring it up in Zoom natively, right? And take notes. You can bring it up in Meeting and take notes. But then you got to go to Notebook and parse through your notes to find it. Anyway, and be started.
They have the opposite problem. They have just way too many good external third-party integrators and no one for internal.
I know. And then 2 nice features for Zoho Writer. I love Zoho Writer. There's one here that came out, which is you can now set current date, a dynamic date to today.
I got a highlight on this one. You could definitely do that before.
Really?
You could definitely do today's date before. I guess they're saying it's a dynamic today's date versus a static today's date?
It was always static. So if you did today's date, it would fill in today's date. But then when you open the document up again, it would have the date of the old date
of the
not
original
the new
generation.
Date.
I don't think so. I don't think that's
Yes.
what it did.
I mean, is there any cases where we generated a document with today's date and then didn't like send it that same? I feel like most of my automations have been, merge in the date and send it with sign like right off the bat. So I could see us missing it.
Maybe I've just not noticed it. The one that I will highlight that is cool on here is dropping in date math. So I could say do a dynamic today's date plus 20 days. If you're going to have like a contract expiration date or a payment due date. That's pretty slick.
The number of formula fields we've done for that specific case, it's so frustrating. I'm glad that Zoho's fine. I mean, I want to see this in CRM email mail merge, right? To be able to say this is the event date, but you got to say,
plus,
notice, like you can set the workflow, but you can't have a date. Dumb.
That brings me, I haven't revisited this in a while. Are you actually able to embed a subform in a CRM email yet? You can do it everywhere else. Can it go into
the only way to do it is with Josh figured out a way to do it where he hits a mail merge document, downloads it as a PDF, and then sends the PDF in line in an email. So it shows in your inbox without being an attachment, but it can only be done with Deluge.
That's really smart. I hadn't thought about that one. What we usually do is we usually take like the subform data and like put it into a multi-line, and then you merge that. And usually like you're just creative with how you format the multi-line. But that's it's frustrating. They've been talking about it for so long, that and being able to merge in a file as an attachment, which to me it boggles my mind that that's not a basic functionality still.
And it's funny because I've seen someone basically do it themselves. It was actually something that a client had built in their own system that we picked up, that they had a function that would take a subform and build it into an HTML table in Deluge and then send that as an email. So they just brute forced it and just converted it themselves. So if you're listening, you know who you are. And that one was pretty clever.
All right. Anyway, back on topic, because we need to extend this show because there's not enough to talk about today.
Very true.
So
get this moving.
Anyway, cool on the date field, and now line spacing gets more layout options, which I actually do like. I use Writer so much. I think this is just super nice. So
the direction that it goes, all of these improvements, each time I'm just super impressed. There's some just really creative like document manipulation ideas that they're implementing.
Yeah, it's if you get used to the UI, which I actually enjoy, I think that it's one of the most powerful word processors out there. Just so good. So good. So any comments on this, guys, that line spacing, anything jump out at you?
No, nothing crazy for me.
Exciting. Love it.
We could spend a couple hours talking about that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. And Zoho Workly adds new filters for shift scheduling, not to be confused with the new application, but you can now have shift scheduling in Zoho Workly. We've never done a Workly implementation, which is just crazy. I mean, all sorts of people and everything else, but never have done a Workly. Have you guys done one?
We haven't. I'm looking at potentially doing one of my first ones coming up, though. I think it's really exciting. I think it is. I totally understand the positioning of it not being part of Zoho 1 in terms of the licensing, but I think that it really needs to be part of Zoho 1 with like additional, per essentially portal pricing. It's just an add-on in order to actually leverage it. But just the fact that it's not natively part of the Zoho 1 suite, I think is what just makes no one want to use it.
Kind of tricky. So. Yeah, it's kind of tricky.
It's so cheap though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a problem. It's just a perception issue, right?
Right. Right. All righty. And then moving on with yet more news. We've got a roundup of the June updates for Backstage. I think we covered every single one of these. Nothing major here. I guess the only thing to point out is that if your portal in Backstage is inactive for 120 days, it's going to be deleted. So they're going to send you 3 email reminders. That's kind of a big one. You can spend a lot of time building out those portals. So if your Backstage is you got an old one sitting around, you might want to just go in and like pretend ping it and reset that 100.
I think that is
write a script.
I think we're the cause for this. We keep going in 119 days to make sure our portal is still active, and they're trying to delete all the old portals.
Let's write a marketplace app. Ping your portal. That'll do it. And Zoho Expense Q2 updates. You know, their whole new revamp that they did last quarter and everything. I love this application, guys.
Oh yeah,
it's just good. Nothing really big here. I guess you got the Route Spring integration for travel routing, some PDF templates.
And blacklisting merchants. If you have particular merchants that you just never want to approve a purchase from, nice to be able to drop those in.
Oh, they don't want anyone to buy luggage from American Tourister. Interesting. Only Samsonite luggage is approved at Zoho. That's it.
Yeah,
all right.
Apple products, no Android, no Google.
And Transmail, June updates. I don't know. Tyler, Vanu, thoughts? Anything jump out at you?
No, we've not used this one too much. Not had a use case for it quite yet, where the volume of transactional email is so big that we've not been able to do it through the CRM. I think here kind of a big one is they've increased some of the counts around how many mail agents and domains you can have within Transmail. So they bumped up the agents from 50 to 100. It's kind of a little variety of simple things. One thing to highlight too, if you are a Zoho Mail Workplace or Zoho One user, they've got a 30% discount running on mail credits through October 31st. So if you are using Transmail and haven't seen that they're doing a sale, might not be a bad time to load up on some of those credits that you're going to use later.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a big room for this app. I think overall with email's complicated in the Zoho suite. And if you are doing this type of volume, you're already using one of the, general, offenders right now, right?
Yeah.
I think the product's still just a little bit new to have like that client Steam, but it's definitely really exciting. And I think overall it's just going to help the mail across the Zoho suite. So
it's a big thing. It's a big thing choosing, making sure that transactional emails aren't going out on a marketing email platform. Like your deliverability is just going to be so much better if you are able to send it through a path like this. So I think it's one of those things that when it becomes more common knowledge, we'll see a lot more use case for it.
100%.
All right, let's take us out with a whimper at the end of the news here. A couple marketplace updates, the new extensions that were in here. I went through these, nothing really. The one that we really liked, I think we talked about, which was Go Cardless. Many of these, it's kind of weird. They get added in. I think if they get an update, sometimes they're new. But I haven't tried any of these. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at them or not as far as it relates to the Zoho CRM.
No, I haven't tried the Monday one, but the Monday one is pretty exciting. I've gotten a couple of clients onto Monday.com, and I think we've done some testing ourselves. I think it's a really exciting application platform. So I'm curious to see what that integration actually is like. But otherwise, a custom integration with Monday.com is extraordinarily powerful, especially for creatives, I think.
Yeah, Monday's got a cool UI, and I find that people that are on it, they love it, from that kind of general project management collaboration kind of thing. It's interesting there.
Yeah, the Adobe integration is cool. So, sorry.
Is it?
Yeah, like you can directly integrate to have Adobe files from Photoshop, Illustrator, in tasks. So imagine Asana, but you're able to plug in files directly from Adobe. I think that's really interesting. So there's a big creative world that it helps with.
All right, and then just a few that came in for Zoho Desk, Active Campaign into Desk, Contact Locator, WooCommerce for Desk. Nothing I've really played with here, but those are the new ones. Sales Loft. So
WooCommerce is interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, it is. I guess you can create sport tickets directly for a Woo order. Exciting stuff. And Tyler, that brings what am I? Hang on, let me try that again. Exciting stuff.
There we go.
Let's go to the implementation of the week.
Yes, this is one that we built out, just building out of the CRM using a plugin called Mapsly. We've talked about Mapsly in the past. It's plugin. It was kind of built with Zoho in mind. It embeds itself into the CRM, and it can basically just be used to put any CRM object onto a map. With it, you can then define territories. You can do routing. Can push data back to the CRM. So you pull in some data, you plot it into a territory or a region. It can then write it back, so you can kind of track things both ways. In this case, the use case was you had a client who has a ton of different fleet assets that could be anywhere at any given time. All of those fleet assets have their own GPS on them, and that GPS has its own ID that kind of identifies the asset. And so we built out a custom module in the CRM that basically stores all these various trucks and vans and mobile assets, each with their individual GPS ID code. And then what the team did is they built a scheduled function that would basically grab that ID from each of those records and hit the relevant GPS service, and go and hit their API and pull back the coordinates that GPS item is at and store them back to the CRM. And then at that point, we now just pull all of that GPS data, so each of the assets and their longitude and latitude, into Mapsly, and then we're able to just present exactly where every single different GPS asset is on a map. What region it is. If you have a new place that you need those assets to be, which one's the closest, right? You just drop a pin into Mapsly and it'll route from these various locations. So pretty cool build from the API perspective, but another kind of use case for Mapsly for kind of dynamic mapping in CRM.
This is our go-to now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cool. I use it a lot. Even if you don't actually care about looking at things on the map, it's my favorite way to set up territories for Zoho. What you oftentimes find with Zoho's pre-built territory management tool is that it's good as long as you don't care about splitting a state. The minute that you want to split a state using Zoho's territories, you're going to be in pain. You're going to have to do, zip code starts with, or it's in one of these cities. With Mapsly, you can draw out a map, or you can choose zip codes. It's really quick to use. And then it can write a territory code back to the CRM. And then you're just basing all of your territories on that code that Mapsly is defining, rather than trying to split things in text with zip codes. You can pull your hair out. So it's a pretty cool tool.
Can do so many cool stuff like that. It's so tight, and the UI is super impressive for its functionality.
Mm-hmm.
This is how fast are you scheduling for every hour you're updating these asset locations?
It's basically with the GPS ping. I think it's every hour. They have running every hour, every 3 hours. It goes out and it hits the GPSs.
Yeah, I'm excited to mess with this with hopefully with creator app locations with assets as well, if you're able to get that GPS ping. But yeah, this is super, super cool.
And these guys are great. We had a issue at the beginning where with an initial implementation a year and a half ago but they jumped on it and got it. And they're just so, you can really just reach out to these guys and get answers.
Yeah.
So.
And they made a lot of improvements too. When the first time it came out, you had to draw. You couldn't select a state on the map, or you couldn't select a zip code. So you had to draw. And so, we sat there and we drew out everything. And at the end, when I got, and it took longer than I care to admit. And after I was done, I sent that feedback to them. I was like, this is great. Please, please, please put a state or a county or a zip code selector in this. And lo and behold, they did. So they're pretty reactive to
fast.
Feedback. Yeah.
All right. Before we go on to our read of the week in the chat room, Kevin, I'm going to be talking telephony at the end of the show. We've been spending a lot of time on that, so I'll have something to talk about there. All right. Read of the week. HubSpot. Vanoon, we love HubSpot. We go over there, not necessarily the product so much, but we go over there all the time. Their blogs are some of the best. But lately we found a lot of others that we've been going to. So we haven't kind of had a HubSpot blog in a while, but I love this one. Best time to send an email based on research. this and when is the best day and time to have a webinar, I think are the two things people ask about the most. And so this is a nice 5-minute read that will give you some of those answers. Anything, guys, that you pulled from this? Should I just sum it up for everybody?
I think some of the insights match up to kind of some of my instincts on email, which is kind of cool. I'll also just say as an aside, Zapier's blog is also really, really excellent. And I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. I'm going to have to add that to my RSS feed so I can go through it. But basically, I would just take, if you want to, how do you measure your success? Is it click-through rate? Is it open rate? Is it click and open rate? And all those seem to have completely different metrics. Is it B2B? Is it B2C?
Mm-hmm.
There are all these different things.
So one thing I like about this one is those 3 little bullets there. It's a pretty quick read, but in the middle, it goes through click-through, click to open, and open rate. And it gives basically a sentence or two on each of them of what does it mean and what decides how well you do here, right? Is it content? Is it subject line? Is it those 3 little bullets there just give you a really great overview of how to define success on those different metrics.
This is the kind of article that's really helpful because I think clients all the time just underestimate what an email is. And it's like, oh no, I just want to send an email. How is that so hard? But there's such a complex science, both in the technical side of email, but in the actual psychology of it. It's very, very interesting. And I think when we're able to break this down like this, it's really, really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And moving on with more reads over at Zenata. We have got 5 tips for boosting employee engagement. Improve your onboarding process. I will tell you, this is something we have been working on a lot. As a matter of fact, we're almost automating our entire onboarding process now for employees. Encourage growth, recognize and reward, use digital communication tools, and teach managers how to increase engagement. 5 little steps. It's a nice read. And additionally, what is subscription management software? Zoho subscriptions. What are the other? Recurly, you can basically take a look. We're going to basically step you through everything you want to know about why you might want to offer subscriptions to your clients, how to set it up, how to configure it if you're using Zoho subscriptions, everything you want to see here, all the analytics and reporting. Good stuff over at Zenata. Big shout out to the team over there. Ever since we bumped these things up to some long reads and quality reads, I think I'm really happy with what we've got going on there. And that brings us to our application of the week. Bria Teams by CounterPath. So we have been Ring Central. Vanu, you mentioned, Kevin asked, hey, what's the best? Ring Central is always the most solid telephony solution that's out there. I imagine Zoho Voice will get there in a year or two. You still can't port numbers. There's a lot going on with there, and it's pricey. It's more expensive than Ring Central right now, which is kind of weird. But Twilio is always the one that I'm kind of like, man, it's so usable and it's got so much extensibility. And we've really been looking for that really great soft phone that you could do some Zoho integration. Now, this is not for the faint of heart, but we're kind of deep in the middle of doing some testing with this, but you can configure this. You can basically set up your SIP trunk inside of Twilio and attach it to this, and you get all sorts of stuff. I mean, this also gives you kind of like a whole, Zoom kind of like live click kind of thing going on as well. But that's not what I love about this Bria app. What I love about this Bria app is it's got a regular old dialer that you can configure, and you can take this dialer. By the way, we were actually looking at a company called Cloud Call, and I just deleted Cloud Call is basically completely based upon, but it's the same dialer. It's the same, but they white branded this Bria dialer. And so this is really, really, really powerful stuff. And we've got it integrated and we're testing it out. And then they've also got Zoho integration that you can then tie in through API as well. So once we get this going, Skylar, if you're paying attention, that's all he's been working on. That's one of our developers. I think this is going to be the kind of the real answer.
So what do you think the path looks like here? Is it Twilio gets plugged into this and then this gets plugged into the CRM, or is Twilio going to hit the CRM and this tool?
No, Twilio gets plugged into this. This hits the CRM.
Got it.
So basically,
Twilio is just your back end, right?
Yeah. This used to be Xphone. So CounterPath bought it, changed it. So this was just a soft dialer, and now they're kind of so you've got two products here. You've got an internal communication tool. It's $4.95 per user, really inexpensive. But that's not really what you're after here. What we're after is the soft phone and that whole Twilio integration, and then the CRM integration. And then I think we might be onto something. We'll see. Because if you look at this, you're only paying $1 per number inside of Twilio, plus some usage fees.
Which are low with Twilio.
Yeah. This could be
it's just slick, because you don't have that plug-in. The fact that it doesn't have that soft phone out of the gate is kind of disappointing, but it is really cool to see.
Does it have a mobile app?
No, there's no mobile app either, and that's like a massive deficiency.
You have to go all these third parties, right?
Yeah. It's like, I know in the Zoho side, like Jeremy Nagel's Twilio, like I think he has his mobile app coming up or in beta right now.
And that's a great SMS plugin there for the CRM.
Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it for voice, Vanu? Is Jeremy looking at a voice
I think
solution?
it does. The mobile app does have voice. I think the
Very
desktop, and then there's no soft phone desktop solution because that's technically the CRM one. But yeah,
there is a nice one. There's another nice one by this company called Nethrum, and I put it up right here. Now, this is a Twilio integration with native Zoho integration as well. So it basically skips everything, and it's only a Chrome plugin, and it will pop the contacts and it will do everything. And I've been playing with that again. They made some improvements. We tried it a while back.
Yeah, the one problem with that one is it doesn't live in a tab. It lives in your browser as a whole, and you can't mute it. And so if you're on like a Zoom call and you get a call from it, the only way to quiet it down is to either like hard decline the call or close out the browser. At least that's how it was when we tried a little while back, which was just a little thing that just is a thorn in your side, you know?
Yeah,
that's the Chrome extension.
Yeah, it's a Chrome extension.
Yeah, I think I had the same experience. The big deficiency with the Twilio voice that I've had is if you need to manage multiple numbers, and that has like really weird interactions with the Chrome extension and when you're signed in or not. And I'm sure there is an optimized setup, but I know that there's a lot of challenges around the Twilio. I mean, this Bria Teams one looks really, really good. That's exciting to explore.
I think, I'll hook you up with Skylar, and you guys can chat if you're interested, because he's doing a bunch of work on the back to get this whole thing working. So if it works, the other cool thing about this is you can configure everybody at one spot. You can go ahead, you can completely configure them and then just say, hey, here's your login, and they log in and it's done. So if it works, it's going to be nice. But man, I'll tell you what, it's been a battle. I think you mentioned Jive here. And I mean, I think we've tried every single telephony.
Yeah, we gave up on Jive a while back.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember we had an issue with one of our clients for Jive, not to disparage them, but they put a bunch of headsets on their bill that they didn't buy. And we had to like battle them to get the headsets off of the bill. It's like, look, you didn't mail them any, like, why are you billing them for this?
I think my thing with telephony in the Zoho world is just the fact that there is no place for voicemails. That just makes any sense. Like, and then you need that connected to records probably, right? But if you have a telephony app that doesn't have its own app, right, for mobile, or a place on web for that home, it just doesn't work. And Twilio by far works well, but then doesn't have that place for the voicemails, the messages, or anything that's really intuitive for people to access. And so
one little sleeping bear there too is if you have a number plugged into CRM on your browser, and then you pull up your CRM mobile app and you click to call, it calls from your phone, like your phone's personal number. So if you have an employee who's using a personal phone but has their own work phone that's tied into CRM on like Ring Central or something like that, they end up dialing from their personal number. I was hoping eventually Zoho Voice would be the silver bullet, right? Because but until they knock that price down from $60 a user, it's going to be a really hard thing to swallow.
Yeah, and Kevin, you're right. There is a lot of finger pointing in the telephony world here. Everybody's kind of like, "Oh no, it's not us. It's Zoho. Zoho's like, it's not us. It's them." Honestly, I don't know. I will tell you though,
it's everybody.
Vanu, but Ring Central's solid, man. Ring Central. If I had to have one that just like, hey, it just works 99.9% of the time, and it's good, and you can do anything with it.
And I think that's just because Ring Central has the web app and the mobile app that works reliably. So you don't need to use, like, if you have an issue with Ring Central, you just go into Ring Central and do what you need to, or access the information. And it just keeps it really simple on the CRM end. I personally prefer like soft phone setups, and then you don't really integrate any of the phone stuff, and it's just, linked into, open this page in Zoho, or open this and do whatever. So there's still a lot of room for improvement in this world. Like we're not near the right solutions yet.
For sure. All right, moving on to our tip of the week. Well, so normally Tyler and I do these tips together, but I bailed last month and Tyler did all of the project tips. So this month I'm doing all of these Zoho mail tips. So I sat down and banged out 5 of these a week or so ago. And we're going to start with setting up your domain in Zoho Mail. And all of these live over on our YouTube channel. So if you want to go to youtube.com/Zanata, you will find everything we have there, sort by newest and they'll show up or whatever, but all of them are there. I will say, Tyler, I don't know if you've noticed, but our Zoho 1 product review, it's about to overtake Zoho Desk. It's coming up on it here. It's coming up fast here. But I think if we go to the date added newest here, yes, there it is, setting up your domain. So all of our, drop by our YouTube channel, check it all out. We've got so much, we release so much content every week, and really appreciate all of the support that you guys give us. And with that, let's move on to our Q&A. Anything?
We did have one question here that we answered in the chat, but I wanted to answer it here just to toss it into the video and recording. So Matt had asked if Zoho contracts we talked about earlier is going to be part of Zoho 1. I did see barely tiny at the bottom of that blog post that it is going to be made part of Zoho 1. So it'll be included with that subscription.
It's kind of a weird one though, because Zoho Learn is going to be made part of Zoho 1, but it's not yet. And we are using Zoho Learn and loving Zoho Learn, but I had to buy a license for Zoho Learn.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Yeah. It's not part of Zoho 1. Yeah, and it has a limit of like the largest the video can be is like 6 kilobytes unless you pay for it. I'm just joking, but it was like a really small. The video was like, I think you have 5 megs was the size of the video.
Sounds like they're going to go onto YouTube and we're going to embed them, right?
Yeah. But no, it's nice to have the videos uploaded there, and we've got a lot of internal training we're doing for our developers, so we're building it out and Learn, and then we've got another client where we're building out their entire stuff over there. I love the Learn app, and it's going to be part of Zoho 1, but it hasn't been made yet. Usually, you can get a special link that can add it in. I was in such a hurry, I didn't try that with Learn, but I probably should hit them up on the back end and see what we can. But again, Zoho Learn was so cheap. I think a year was $300 or something, for 5 users. It's not a particularly expensive application.
Yeah. So far, we haven't had to add any other. It seems maybe, I don't know. I haven't had to pay for any users so far. And it's all, I don't know why. So I definitely like Learn. I want to see how it, especially with all the redundancies in, like, I mean, you think like Sign, right? And Sign has like contract and, Zoho Writer Mail Merge. Like it's clearly like used in all these other related apps. You have Connect, you have People's LMS, like there's all these other ones. And I'm waiting to see the signs that like Learn is actually powering those appropriately. And it like sometimes feels like it is and sometimes it isn't. Learn is going to be very exciting for when it's actually truly implemented in the systems.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the people we have working on it are really impressed with it. So I'm kind of happy to see it come in.
Even as a standalone, it's excellent.
All right. And then Wayne is saying he would love to have Zoho Notes integrated into projects. Yes. Well, don't even talk to me about this, Wayne.
Yeah. What we do now for that is if you are like working a project or a task there, and it's a little bit of a pain because Notebook is prettier and it's going to be kind of nicer to use, but we just take them directly into tasks. So you can have your list of comments and notes, and those can be done in rich text as well. So right now, I mean, for our internal uses, unless we're taking notes that are kind of independent of a specific item, we just take the notes directly onto the task or onto the project, so that it goes in there.
Yeah. And if they make Zoho Notes integrate with Zoho projects before CRM, that's it. That's it. I'm out. All right, guys. Then that is a wrap. Venu, thank you so much for sitting in and joining us. We really, really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is a great time. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
All right. If anybody's got any questions or comments, please head over to zenata.com or crmzen.com and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. I'll see you next Monday.